Testing, testing. Good afternoon and welcome to Chesapeake Heritage and Visitor Center and the Queen Anne's County Ferry Point Park. We've long anticipated this day, and I'm sure many of you have. And we're so excited that we get to have this large group of people here today to be able to see all the work that's been done by our Department of Public Works and our parks. I know they worked really hard to make this happen, and we're just so excited. The park has already been utilized so very much since it opened in April 1st. I think our residents are really excited because this is just a showcase of all that Queen Anne's County has to offer. I'd now like to introduce our County Administrator, Todd Mon, to say a few words.
All right. Thanks, Heather. And thanks for you and Lisa Gallo for ordering up this beautiful, spectacular weather today here at the Kent Narrows. And I'm happy, so delighted to be here today to finally dedicate and complete this showcase project here at our Chesapeake Heritage and Visitor Center with the completion of this multi-phase project. And I want to talk, about it a little bit, but I do want to give a little history in that. We bought this facility, this property back in the mid-1990s, 94, and it was actually a residential property at the time, and it had some apartments in it, and it wasn't in the greatest condition, the greatest shape, and it's been a labor of love ever since. So we've been doing a lot of work on the building, and it does house our economic development and tourism department now. It also houses the Kent Narrows Development Foundation. They have their offices here, and of course our police and DNR substation. So that is a great piece to have here in the Kent Narrows, and a great presence that we have here. So, but the grounds here was always, a bit of a mess. It was, the bulkhead was low. We had the tide rolling up over the bulkhead. It always flooded out. The grass was always, sort of patchy, and the parking lot always flooded. So it really wasn't a great usable outdoor space. So it was very challenging to figure out how we were going to make those improvements to make it all work so that it could be usable by not only the citizens but also the general public that want to come and visit us here in Queen Anne's County. So, but it all started then, with the bulkhead behind me here. It had some holes in it, and it was very, very old. It had failed, and earth and soil kept running through into the Kent Narrows, and of course then we had to dredge the Kent Narrows out, so we kept fixing that. We knew we had to repair that permanently. So fortunately, and our public landing supervisor James Woods is going to talk about it in a minute, he was successful at acquiring some grant dollars so we could fix the bulkhead and take care of that problem. Of course that led to more improvements, and we knew we had this lovely boat landing, and then we had added the T-pier as part of the project, and then of course the parking lot needed, some reconfiguration, and the grounds. So, below you, there's a very elaborate stormwater management system to drain all this property so that we don't have the flooding, and it does drain well. The water goes away, and it's nice and dry, and the grass is beautiful green. So we're very, very pleased how things turned out, with all the help with our granting agencies from the Department of Natural Resources, and of course our county commissioners, Commissioner Phil Dumanel, our vice president of the board. We couldn't have accomplished all this without their support and their funding, because there are a lot of local dollars in this as well. So we really thank our county commissioners for for funding the project as they did. And lastly, when we finished everything, we said, well, the roadway coming in, it needs a little love too, because the trail had curb stops along it, and we said, we really ought to put a curb and gutter in there and really tie this thing up nice. So make it a multi-phase and completion project all the way back to to the parking lots underneath the bridge. So we redid the roadway, put the curb and gutter in, repaved everything, and buttoned everything up. And so we're very, very pleased how everything turned out. And this kind of project, it was largely an in-house design, and I want to acknowledge all the stakeholders that were involved in this: our Parks and Recreation group, our Economic Development and Tourism group, our Department of Public Works, and Paul Seidens here. He was the project manager down here on the site, and we went through many iterations and had many meetings about how this was going to look, what colors to use on the concrete, and those were interesting times, interesting meetings, but we got through all that, And again, the county commissioners for their patience and understanding as we went through all those iterations to bring this beautiful project to fruition. So we're very, very pleased how this looks, the end product for our visitors and our citizens of Queen Anne's County. So, but I'd like to ask Commissioner Phil Dumanel to say just a few words too, since he's here today, and acknowledge everybody's presence. So, thank you.
So, thank you. So I'll be brief. So a couple folks right out of the gate that I would be remiss if I didn't thank. I want to thank Joe, who runs the marine over here at Piney Narrows. During the construction process, they were a friendly neighbor when it came to parking equipment and cars and things of that nature. So Joe Pomerantz and your crew over there at Piney Narrows, thank you very much. We appreciate your help on that. I have to tell you that somebody who enjoys being on the water, enjoys boating, enjoys fishing, I think this project really does dot all the I's and crosses the T's. We do have an area where fishing is not allowed, and we have an area where fishing is allowed. So I think it was a great compromise. One of the things that the set of commissioners really try to do is find areas where we can invest money in opening up opportunities for our citizens to be able to access public waterfront. Places where they can go and enjoy the Narrows. And this is a great opportunity, a great example of where people who live here in Queen Anne's County or are visiting Queen Anne's County can come and hang out with their families and enjoy the surroundings and Ferry Point Park. So with that, I'll bring Todd back up. Also, we want to thank the folks from DNR. I know we had some grant dollars that helped us with this project. So the folks from the Department of Natural Resources, thank you very much for your partnership in this project.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Dumanel. So next, I'd like to ask James Wood, our Public Landing Supervisor, to come on up and tell us a little bit about his role in this. Where is James? James, come on, James. That's your cue. Here he comes.
I'm not James Wood. I'm actually Steve Chandler. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation, and just, I wanted to take an opportunity to introduce James to, he's got a couple stories that are really touches your heart about this whole aspect here of the park. So I'm going to allow him to say a few words, and I'm also going to be his little side person to help hold up pictures and things like that. So James Wood, our Public Landing Supervisor.
Good afternoon. Ribbon cuttings or ceremonies like this, you don't even believe they're going to ever happen. I got a printout of a spreadsheet that Sandy Pepe and I, who's now retired from DNR, this project almost outlasted both of us, and she's enjoying retirement, and I can't thank her enough. But that spreadsheet is version 26, okay? And Paul Seiden and I have traded countless emails, but I want to also recognize Rusty Lease, who's standing in the back there, and how many shovelfuls of material do you think you put in holes that were behind that bulkhead? So he thinks we could have built a bridge to Red Eyes from here. And I got involved with this project because I came down here one Friday, and you always worry on Fridays what's going to happen over the weekend. And there was this hole that had developed, and my friend is caution tape. So I want to just say beware of caution tape, because the next thing you know, you're involved with a project. And but why did I put that caution tape up? And it was to protect the public. I didn't want, and the county, but really it's the public. You didn't want someone to get hurt. You want to identify the hazard. Well, fast forward to today, this is also for the public, and I wanted to share 3 stories about the public. And we're at a visitor center, so yes, this is going to serve Queen Anne's County residents. but it also is a focal point for people who have never been to Queen Anne's County, and we have a lovely museum in there we used just 2 weeks ago on a rainy day when we're supposed to have a field trip, and I'll talk about that in a second. But I also want to get back to the bulkhead. It was failing. We did a couple Band-Aids and try to fix it, and we needed to replace it. And that translates to asking through the Waterway Improvement Fund with DNR. Those are your boat stickers and other funding support from the state of Maryland. So this is a real partnership, state and county. And there's a process, you fill out a form and you say, hey, we need this money, but we got these other projects, and you're competing against all the other counties in the state of Maryland. Well, this is a high profile site. It's important. We scored highly enough to get the funding initially. Guess what happened next? COVID. And material prices went through the roof, and we needed more money. And so there's change orders, and every one of those is an email and another moment. And my part sort of stops at the water's edge. Rusty and I try not, we're where land and water interface. So I want to compliment the next phase that we had a bus from Ohio in that parking lot 2 weeks ago of folks with disabilities that wanted to come here to an island, and they had a lovely time even though it was raining. And Lisa Gallo gave us crab hats, and a lot of things happened that was all to the good. And it gave us a good representation of what Queen Anne's County is all about. Okay, so I want to thank my coworkers and my colleagues within our department, outside our department, and our other organizations. I can't say enough about Sandy, but also her colleagues. Carla Fleming is here today. Matt is here today. And Isaac, who's not here today. And he's the dredging guy. So we had a lot of aspects to all this. And then Natural Resources Police, they operate out of here. So we improved the boat ramp that they use. We put in this T-pier. And I want to thank Captain Sarah Lawrence and Captain Adam Lawrence, a mom and pop two-captain boat school, towboat folks, who said to me, if you ever need a favor, let me know. And at 9:30 last night, I'm asking if we could have a boat. So here are my 3 stories. Ready? The first one is about this bench right behind me. And maybe Steve, if you could loan me So this bench has an inscription on it and says, in memory of Arthur H. Piatt, smooth sailing love, always Linda. Who's Linda, you may ask? Well, Linda called us up, and when you're working late on a Friday and no one else is answering the phone, the calls come to you, and this bench was not here because we're under construction, and she got very concerned. But this pen pal relationship, I'll call it, through email developed. And I just want to read one story from her. And she came down here 2 Saturdays ago and was very pleased with the outcome, but very concerned when her bench was missing. So she said, today I spoke with myself, who very kindly located the piece of the bench and the plaque and informed me that they had to be dismantled and will be rebuilt and placed close to where I had requested to be placed, facing north. Here's our compass rose. Toward the Chester River, where we, for 20 years, sailed through the Narrows when exiting Piney Narrows Yacht Haven. And I just talked to Joe a minute ago, and he remembers Arthur and Linda. My husband was here's the interesting part of the story. Sorry for all the preamble. My husband was a U.S. Air pilot, and upon one of my visits to the bay to see the bench over the last 12 years, I discovered 2 gentlemen sitting on the bench. I explained that I had donated the bench to the park and hoped they were enjoying sitting on it. I mentioned my husband's name, and the one gentleman said he recognized the name. As it turned out, they were both U.S. Air pilots. The one man flew with my husband, and I remembered his name from the trip pairings. They informed me that they visited the park regularly and that my husband's bench was their favorite place to sit, looking up the Narrows toward the Chester River. I found that to be an incredible coincidence. So you never know what's on the other end of the telephone. Is, you know, they pay me to answer that telephone, but it's really a joy when something like that happens. So our next story, if you can bear with me, as recently as 2 Saturdays ago, we have the park rangers monitoring our parks and doing a good job and making sure everyone, they're really ambassadors, and I want to give them a plug. So we have a thing called we encourage them to take a picture. What did I see at the park today? So if you go on our website, QAC.org, to Parks and Rec, you can find out what they saw at the park today. The idea is that if you're coming to our park, you know what to expect. That's what happened 2 Saturdays ago in that fishing area, that we do allow people to come fishing. That is help me Chris, a blue catfish that's an invasive species, and we encourage people to catch these catfish, and our watermen in our marina are catching them. So this gentleman is from Columbia, Maryland, another visitor to Queen Anne's County, had a positive experience. Of course, we hold the 4th of July here. My colleagues that work with Steve, organize all that. That does benefit Queen Anne's County residents and every person that comes through here on their morning walk or whatever it is. And then finally, I do want to mention that we had that group with disabilities. They were from Ohio. It's not disabilities, it's abilities, and their name is Youth Ability. And we hosted them. They were supposed to come to Ferry Point. I cannot thank Lisa Gallo enough and everyone else to put together a nice experience for them. They came, they gave a program at the Kent Island Library. The name of their program was called Kindness Grows. And it was just lovely. And they came here. We went to the Waterman's Boat Base, and Troy Wilkins and Captain Buck Lynch got on the bus, and then they came over here. And they would have been on this Compass Roads. We had a whole program around it, but it was pouring rain. But the bus parked in this nice brand new parking lot. We actually backed the bus into Ferry Point, and at the very last moment, there was a great blue heron. And we had talked about great blue herons in Maryland and crabs and all this stuff. And the highlight was Chris Jones gave us some crab traps, and they practiced catching a crab in a crab trap. And those are the kind of experiences that are happening here for the public. Instead of falling in this pothole that I had put caution tape up, it's just really lovely to see all that. And I just, the emails are worth it. The exchange of information, the frustrations of I don't know how many decisions Paul Seiden had to make, 10,000 maybe. And no one thought this property would drain. And we have come down here after hard rains and high tides, extreme high tides just 2 weeks ago, and it is working. So I just can't thank it. It's really a collective effort. And it just makes me glad to work for Queen Anne's County, be part of this, but also to just see the benefits. So it's a joy to see the end of a project sometimes, and that's really what I'm here to say. So thank you.
Yeah, and with that, I'll ask Paul Seiden, the project manager from the Department of Public Works, just to say a few acknowledgments, and then we'll proceed on, I think, with the ribbon cutting, right? All right, Paul?
All right, good afternoon. I was fortunate enough to be the engineer and designer of this project. It's been a long time working on this project, like everybody said. But with everybody's input from all the departments, I think it turned out really well. Again, thank you for all the departments, everybody that worked on this. There's a long list of people to thank you, but thank you. We did do this in-house, and I think by doing it in-house, we were able to change designs as we started going, added different things. So I think we were very fortunate to do it in-house to turn out the way it did here today. And we were also fortunate with the contractors we had here. We had great contractors. We had great contractors on this, and it was developed in like 2 different phases. Phase 1 was the bulkhead, the boat ramp, the pier, and the boat lift. And then phase 2 was the backfill, site grading, the concrete that you see here, the parking lot, and the bioretention area. So the bioretention area, we didn't have any stormwater management on this site before. and now we have stormwater management on this site. And we actually have a boardwalk that leads through the bioretention areas, so people could actually walk through and see how important stormwater management is for the environment. With that being said, the contractors that were involved here was Mertec. Mertec did the bulkhead, and they had expertise in every aspect of the project. They helped us out in every way. I'd like to thank Bob Murtha, Tyler, and also, Tyler and Jason Hare. They're great guys to work with. They were contractors that I felt like they thought this was a project in their backyard. That's how much they were worried about it, and asked about it, how things should be and making sure everything was right. It's a great company that they have, and I'm very happy that they had that part of the contract. And that's the same with phase 2 of this project. Phase 2 of this project was David A. Bramble. They're the same way. They came in quickly. We had a lot of backfill, a lot of grading to do, and they made short work of that. And same thing with that. They built these boardwalks back here, and I didn't even know they did boardwalks. And they did a great job on that. They had some good ideas, and we implemented their ideas as well. And that's the results that you have here. Nice product we have at the end. So I'd like to thank Chuck, Scott, Justin, and Roger. They did a great job too. And also their subcontractor, Paul Rock, they're the ones who did the concrete on here. And again, they were also great with everything they did. They made sure the colors were right. We did test samples, make sure everything was right. I had Heather and her group come out, make sure the colors looked like it was supposed to look like. And they took time to make sure everything was right with all this stuff. And same with this compass rose that we have installed here. The compass rose, the color is the same colors as the Queen Anne's County seal. So that's why these colors are this color. So that we made sure the colors match the county seal. So again, we were fortunate with good contractors, everybody's helping all the departments. I think everybody did a great job. It's a long run, but I think it paid off. And so I think now what we have here, we have a park that has wide open, grass open space. You have a fishing area, you have a boating area, you have DNR that could get out in the narrows quicker, and a staging area here for the future for many events that have come. So I'm looking forward to see the 4th of July event here. It should be a good event, and thank you everybody. I appreciate it. Now we're supposed to do the ribbon cutting.